One of the main developments that affected all of the residents of the Whangaparoa Peninsula was the opening of the Gulf Harbour Village and Golf and Country Club by then Prime Minister Jim Bolger in November 1997. At the peak of the construction of this major development, at the end of the peninsula, there were over 300 workers involved in various aspects of the work. And considering it was 2.5 decades ago, it was costing over $1 million a week, an eye-watering amount of money at the time. Mr. Bolger went on to praise Mr. Goh and his Singaporean team for their vision and leadership, and the 5-year journey that it took to get to that point. It was expected that over 7,000 new residents would take up home at the end of the peninsula as a result. Underpinning the excitement and that milestone was an important encumbrance that was committed by Rodney District Council to ensure that the considerable residential housing development that would accompany this project would have a definite envelope. It is one thing to put in place a plan for several thousand new homes in any location, but considering that this was at the end of a peninsula and would affect tens of thousands of the other residents of Whangaparoa, the encumbrance ensured that a defined green space around the country club could never be built on. This was an intentionally large area and bigger than was strictly required just for the activities of golf. Green spaces serve a much wider community of people than just golfers, and add to the overall attraction of Gulf Harbour and in general to everyone's physical health and maybe especially their emotional health. In 1998, Gulf Harbour hosted the World Cup of Golf, and the spotlight of one of our planet's most engaged with sports swung its focus to this community at the end of the peninsula in New Zealand. The event was hailed a massive success. But the Singaporean Go group was finding it hard to attract local developments to invest in early residential housing around the golf course. In 2004, there was a transfer of the assets of Gulf Harbour Country Club from the Singaporean group that received the plaudits from our Prime Minister in 1997 to a local successful businessman, Jamie Peters, and the Starline Group. This catalysed housing development around the front 9 holes of the country club especially. In 2006, Mark Bryers of Blue Chip bought the Gulf Harbour Country Club from Jamie. In actual fact, the transaction was a transfer of assets to Starline in exchange for the country club. Mark met with the club members at that time and assured them that significant investment and development of the facility was lined up. He introduced the IMG design group to the club members and talked of remodelling some of the holes amidst what seemed like significant additional development of the facilities and site. But by 2009, receivers had been brought in as Blue Chip collapsed. The country club was only one of a number of assets which needed to be sold to raise the money owed by Blue Chip to its creditors. The members of the golf club, who from the beginning had been beholden to the various owners who had used the club predominantly as a means to drive housing development around the club, made a bold move and bought the club from the receivers. And the members ran the club successfully for several years, focusing on maintaining the playing surfaces of the golf course, and invited the community and residents of Gulf Harbour as well as the members of the country club to become involved in some aspects of the maintenance of some of the surrounding land. The club continued in this way until 2012, when a new owner was found in Long River Investments Corporation, who bought the club and ensured that the golf course and surrounding land could continue to be enjoyed by the residents of Gulf Harbour as well as the golfers themselves. By 2018, there were over 6,000 residents of the Gulf Harbour suburb, already adding to the volume of traffic travelling across the 11-kilometre long single road that serves the peninsula. Of those, most were in their 30s, at a stage of life where they had a young family. The demands on health services, schooling, recreation and shopping amenities became more significant. But the highest evidence of this growing community has been the volume of traffic that has steadily increased to the point today where, especially for those people that need to travel on and off the peninsula every day, can add up to an additional hour of travel and time away from their home and family. In July 2021, the Phoenix Trust Limited bought the shares in Long River Investment. Early observed activity included removing nearly all of the tall pine trees, which have been a feature of this area of the peninsula, and also the reason for the naming of Pinecrest Drive, which no longer has any pines on its crest. In July 2023, the Gulf Harbour Country Club was suddenly closed by the current owner. Golfers and the community were devastated after 26 years of successful operation. Keep Whangaparoa's green spaces swung into action immediately, building public awareness through public meetings, an online petition, billboards, flyers and signage, opening dialogue with Auckland Council staff and councillors and the Hibiscus Coast Local Board, local and national media, and established a growing social media presence, primarily on Facebook. The new owner's intentions became very clear in November 2023 when a resource consent application was made to Auckland Council, which would underpin a plan to substantially change how the land at the end of the peninsula would be used. In summary, the plan is to separate the title of the land surrounding holes 2 to 9, i.e. the front 9, of the country club from the rest of the golf course. The argument put forward is that the footprint of land that the golf course occupies is too expensive to maintain. The holes would be reconstructed in some way on adjoining land on the south side of Gulf Harbour. It can probably be assumed that this endeavour would be funded by rezoning the land currently used by holes 2 to 9 so that intense residential housing development can take their place. The argument is that the green space encumbrance could still be honoured but simply moved to the adjoining land. The planned piece of adjoining land is owned by Hopper Construction and appears to have its own project well underway. Further research shows that this particular piece of adjoining land has had a long-running plan to be developed into an 85-house community of its own. Certainly it does not look as if the considerable multi-year geotechnical work and architectural planning that underpinned such an undertaking are about to be binned in favour of accommodating some golf holes. In any case, it is hard to see how the remaining Gulf Harbour Country Club land could possibly accommodate the instantiation of 8 holes anywhere, even if the adjoining land were available to enable this vision. Here are the 8 golf holes on the part of the course which are planned to be committed to intense residential housing. And here is the piece of adjoining land which was originally being considered as the place to move the encumbrance to, and presumably some of the now missing golf holes. It is immediately obvious that this piece of land will not be enough to replace those now missing holes from the front 9, and that major reconstruction of the entire golf course would be necessary. It is beginning to look as if the latest acquirer of the Gulf Harbour Country Club, like many before, are much more interested in the money that can be released from building more houses than in nurturing and evolving the asset that was committed in 1997 and underpinned by the encumbrance to preserve a way of life for those people who invested in moving their families and homes to the end of the peninsula. Of secondary interest and probably back of mind is the impact this will have on traffic, emergency services, general health, dentistry, kindies, schools, education, shopping capacity, and general recreation on the peninsula as a place to live, as the community at Gulf Harbour gains another 30% of inhabitants and imposes all of that stress on the rest of the residents of the Whangaparoa Peninsula. At KWGS, we are staying closely involved. Keep Whangaparoa Green Spaces was formed in 2021 by a group of peninsula locals when Greg Oliver first bought the golf course. They were suspicious that he would not be committed to running the golf course and maintaining this invaluable community asset. They believed that he would only be interested in closing the course to build houses, given his property development background. We have already represented everyone on the peninsula at council meeting of the Parks and Recreation Committee and presented a petition signed by almost 5,000 residents of the community. We have urged the council to maintain its stance on the encumbrance that is essential to preserve the quality of life that all residents of the peninsula, not just the residents of Gulf Harbour, and indeed not just its golfers, currently enjoy. Most importantly, you can get involved. First of all, if you can find the time to go to www.kwgnz.org, you can sign up for email updates, and we will be coordinating both communications and preparing actions that we can take as a community. Secondly, if you subscribe to this YouTube channel, you will be able to see all of the videos that we create. And if you press the notifications bell, then you will be notified when a new video update is available for you to watch. If you like the video, then YouTube will learn that there are people who are interested in this channel and it will be easier to find. There is no charge to you for doing any of this, and we maintain the highest standards of privacy and security with the information that you give to us. Thank you for watching this video. We will do our best to keep you up to date with developments that affect all of us as residents of this wonderful community on the Whangaparoa Peninsula.